had a good forecast. We decided to do a route called Porter's Col.
Porter's Col is one area I wouldn't go climbing.
This was a nasty piece of work.
Among New Zealand's highest peaks, death is a constant companion. On this mountain, a special few tackle a job more dangerous than most could ever imagine.
He upside down and he was about 55 metres down the rope and then that pulled.
The Aoraki Mount Cook Search and Rescue Team is on standby 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready to go in when life hangs in the balance. When the cry for help goes out, the mountain rescuers answer. They go deliberately into danger.
Just an ugly little slot, mate.
But who will live
Very tight.
and who will die?
It's getting out. He's alive! Yep.
We can't need a raise really quickly, mate.
137 people have died climbing here. This is a killer mountain, and it's about to strike again. Aoraki Mount Cook is the towering summit of New Zealand's Southern Alps. Reaching to 3,754 metres. This mountain is regarded as one of the most challenging climbs in the world, and one of the deadliest. To reach its summit is an arduous climb rivaling many better-known peaks around the world. The islands of New Zealand lie on the edge of the Great Southern Ocean. Storms born here rage unimpeded across thousands of kilometres of sea until they hit the Southern Alps. They burst over this mountain backbone in a boiling fury that's unpredictable and deadly. And in the heart of this weather cauldron is New Zealand's highest mountain. Aoraki Mount Cook is a magnet for climbers. But today, fresh snow on top of thawing ice has made the whole mountainside highly unstable. Two climbers on a ridge 3,300 metres up are trapped. It's too treacherous to carry on or to go back. The entire ridge is on the point of slipping away. By pure luck, the climbers are on the flight path of an off-duty rescue pilot. But the ridge is far too unstable for him to attempt a landing. Even flying near the climbers is risky. The ice ridge is buffeted by downdrafts and crosswinds. At any moment, the wind could throw the helicopter against the towering cliffs. There's no way for the pilot to get near enough to help the climbers by himself. He calls in the mountain rescuers. 37-year-old Andrew Athol Welsh is a senior member of the SAR, the Aoraki Search and Rescue Team. Just 2 years into the job, Athol is already a veteran of 25 rescues.
That the party have requested it be done as a SAR. Over. Generally, they're people that are unlucky. Accidents occur through no fault of their own, through foolishness, bad judgment, a whole raft of reasons. But when I go out there, I'm not interested in why it happened. I'm there to do a job. It's my job, their emergency.
I got a radio. Do you want it?
Yeah. We'll take some food and fluids for them as well.
A highly trained 8-member SAR team is on duty around the clock. They have to be prepared for anything, from raging avalanche to overdose of sunburn.
Getting out at about 3,500 metres, you get pretty sunburned.
Rescuer Scotty Flower has notched up 10 rescues and spent enough time climbing on Aoraki Mount Cook to learn that one of the greatest killers is impatience.
I should have waited another day, perhaps little things settle down, another freeze tonight. And with the conditions the way they are, extremely hazardous, I wouldn't have been wanting to traverse the summit ridge of Aoraki today.
But when the alarm sounds, Scotty and the other mountain rescuers go in. No questions asked. The mountain rescuers are medically trained, but at high altitude they face hazards most paramedics would never encounter. Up here they could face avalanche, crevasses, whiteout or frostbite. This ridge is so unstable, a landing could trigger a snowslide. Instead, the pilot has to keep the machine hovering as Scotty leaps off to prepare the climbers for evacuation.
How you doing, alright? Yeah. Okay, just take your crampons off, then I'll put your tools in and your crampons, and then I'll jump in, throw my pack in, and then we'll be out of here.
The weather is already closing in ahead of another big storm. Scotty's relaxed manner belies the urgency of the situation. If things go wrong now, there may not be time for a second rescue attempt. These two climbers are lucky. In similar conditions 10 years ago, a climber fell, dragging his partner with him and knocking over two other parties in their rapid descent. That day, the SAR team brought 17 climbers off the mountain. Today, the two climbers arrived back unharmed and feeling embarrassed for needing rescue, but thankful to be off a mountain that was slipping away from under them.
Suddenly, like the whole mountainside just started to slide, these big blocks of snow. And I was looking at Christine, I was looking at the mountain thinking, what on earth is going on?
We actually had our rope on still, which was lucky, so Mark was able to stop me.
I just dived over to self-arrest. But it's just an amazing moment, you know, when you see this whole side of the mountain just peel off. Crusty, wind-blown snow, it just breaks up into little blocks that go tumbling down into space.
What makes this mountain so treacherous is the suddenness and ferocity of weather changes. Sunshine can turn to raging storms at any time of the year. It's still early in the annual climbing season. Before long, the SAR team will face far tougher tests, and none more so than helicopter pilot Andy Shearer. Andy is 34. He's been with the team for 2 years, hooked by the chance to fly in this testing environment. Operating continually above 3,000 metres in marginal weather means there's no room for error.
We go in operating conditions which are a little bit more arduous or difficult than we would normally on, say, scenic flight or something like that. But we also have a limit at which we will say, no, it's not safe to go, because there's no point in taking undue risk to save somebody if you're going to end up in a crumpled heap on the ground in the process.
In winter, the mountain rescuers have other jobs. Come summer, they must come together as a highly cohesive team, which means intensive training. Today's plan is to rehearse a rescue from a crevasse in the ice. It will be a strangely prophetic day.
The traverse across is always a wee bit dicey. If you feel uncomfortable about the traverse across, just yell out and someone will give you a hand, put a rope down, whatever.
Grant Prackley is head of the mountain rescuers, a veteran of 9 summers and over 100 rescues.
Just come back through Scotty.
He's highly regarded for his coolness and compassion.
As a team leader, you've got to really trust your fellow rescuer. That's really, really important, and I think you do that by getting to know them. This year, they're really friendly. They've got good sense of humour, and they work really well together when they need to.
These are all experienced mountaineers, drawn to the job by the opportunity to work in the mountains. Newcomer Pim Demonchi is typical. He's 28 years old. It's his first year on the team. He's hoping some SAR experience will set him up for a life in the mountains.
I have a love for climbing, and it's a way that I can do a little bit of that in my job, do a lot of that outside my job, and also because I'd like to be a guide, and if I can use this experience to help me towards that over the next 3 or 4 years, then I think it's going to be a real positive step.
As a newcomer, Pim will rely heavily on the experience of the older hands. Rob Davis is a veteran of 26 mountain rescues.
If I had to say something to any new member of the SAR team, it would be, don't sweat the small stuff, and remember that it's all small stuff. Some problems seem pretty huge, but when broken down into little pieces, just little itsy-bitsy pieces, nothing's a worry.
It's a philosophy the team will soon put to the test as the mountain rescuers face the real thing on the Killer Mountain. The Aoraki Mount Cook Alpine Rescue Team is about to test its skills against one of the mountain's greatest dangers. They're headed to a treacherous area of shifting crevasses. They're looking for one dangerous enough to take the team members to the very edge of their fears. Crevasses are nature's man traps, deep chasms beneath the snow.
I think we're all right below. It's just close to the crevasse, really.
The upper one's on the slope there, I mean, it's pretty common. It's from tension. The snow is coming down over the lip, and it's just basically been pulled apart. So tension, so this gives you your crevasses.
What happens is it goes down here on the ramp, and then there's a big hole that goes another 10 or 15 metres down here.
Well, try not to be in a position in which you're under too much overhanging, fallen looking stuff.
New boy Pim is going as far down the crevasse as he can. Testing the limits of safety in training is essential preparation for the real thing.
I guess in our stuff, the level of risk that we accept is a little bit high because we're going to a known hazardous area usually that someone has had an accident in. This kind of thing, we can get a snow bridge collapse down onto people that are into the crevasse, so that's quite serious.
While Pim works his way down into the crevasse, the squad work on a rescue system to pull him out. Burying a large bag provides an anchor for ropes where there's nothing but soft snow.
Because of the snow conditions are so soft, one of the strongest anchors you can do is burying a pack. So we got a big haul bag which we're burying and filling up with snow.
An alternative for anchoring ropes is a metal stake, known as a pig, that drives itself into the snow.
When the snow's really soft, you attach in the middle and angle it back about 45 degrees. So when you pull on it, it buries deeper in the snow. The more you pull on it, the deeper it buries.
Okay, stand by to raise. Slowly.
The anchors support pulleys, making it possible to haul a victim up from great depths. As the new members will soon discover, frequently the people they're saving will be long past helping themselves.
And again. Stop. Beautiful.
Every season, 30 climbers fall victim to the mountain's hazards and need to be rescued. Getting to the victim is only half the battle. Getting them off the mountain is a different challenge. A 24-metre line greatly extends the helicopter's reach, but the line beneath the machine isn't visible from inside. Somehow, pilot Andy Shearer has to manoeuvre the rope blind.
Flying humans on the bottom of a line is quite a pressure, because if things go wrong, horribly wrong, people are going to die.
In the alpine winds, the dangling line can act like a sail and drag the helicopter into the rocks.
If we get any large gusts of wind blowing up over here, we're going to have to abort. It either means dropping back off with the wind or into it, usually back, but that also means we have to cut the strop. Okay, so he's just about to take off now, so if that were to happen, it's not very nice.
You need to forget to a certain extent about flying the helicopter and be thinking about flying the guys who are hanging on the end of the strop. You've got a couple or three human beings, which are obviously a very precious cargo. When we start getting into situations where somebody's fallen down a hole and against the cliff, you're trying to keep the blades away from the rocks and keep the helicopter in one piece, but at the same time trying to gently put the guys into the situation they're going on to, which may not always be that hospitable.
Today at least, the exercise goes without mishap. But the day's training will soon become critical as each man puts his own life on the line in a desperate attempt to save another. Andy Shearer's wife, Tony, has learned to live with the risks her pilot husband faces every day.
Sort of
have faith in Andrew, and he flies professionally, and everyone he works with here is professional. Everyone in the area understands the danger of the place. It's so surreal, but they come home every day.
Tony and Andrew were drawn to the area by a mutual love of the mountains and Andy's love affair with flying choppers.
Yeah, Andrew's a helicopter fanatic. He'd like to have his helicopter recognition charts all over the house.
No.
But it's just probably priority number 2.
What's priority number 1?
Yeah, I was sort of trying to avoid that one. Is it me or the helicopter?
It's you.
Oh, okay, but you go.
Every moment of the day.
The tiny community at the foot of the mountain is home to only about 100 permanent residents. But such is the reputation of Aoraki Mount Cook that people flock here every year from around the world. Mount Cook Village is a tourist mecca, attracting some 250,000 visitors every year. The mountain is an icon famous far and wide, almost as distinctive as Kilimanjaro or Mount Fuji. Few of its admirers are aware that the National Park staff they see are in fact members of the Mountain Rescue Team. Instead of a highly paid elite, the rescuers are volunteers who take mundane jobs in the National Park for the chance to join the rescue teams.
Go ahead, Robert.
They go about their tasks never knowing when the radio will bring a call that will turn them from workers into rescuers.
Excellent. Can you ask him to check for them? Over.
Aoraki Mount Cook is the centre of an ever-growing industry built around risk-taking. It draws a stream of climbers, adventurers and thrill-seekers. There are 22 peaks in the area that are over 3,000 metres. The entire area is regarded as a playground for the daring. For many climbers, the risks and the alpine extremes are something to celebrate.
As you're climbing up, I mean, it's not just getting to the summit.
That's it.
I think it's the whole time from packing up all your gear, preparation beforehand and getting everything ready to go, and just waking up in the morning as you're walking through the dark and all you can hear is your crampons going against the ice, and it's completely quiet except for that sound, and you look up and you see the stars.
Just watch us here, okay?
But all too often, the quest for thrill carries climbers too far.
Yeah, I fall off quite a lot. Like in the 8 years I've been rock climbing, if you don't fall off, as they say, you're not trying hard enough. It's an exhilarating second or so when you fall off, but after that you're coming down to the end of the rope, you look at your mate and go, well, do I come back down or do I keep climbing? Because it's usually quite safe, you keep going back up again.
Thanks, mate. Right.
Not a bad day.
Awesome.
This is the mountain on which Sir Edmund Hillary trained before conquering Everest. There are areas here very like Everest, but without the altitude extremes. Soft rock and high year-round snowfall add to the challenges. Coupled with the unpredictable weather, it makes climbing Mount Cook among the most hazardous of alpine adventures. For many, that adds to its allure and heightens the thrill. But it also sets the scene for disaster. On any given summer's day, there are 140 people in these mountains. Most will remain up here for a week at a time, returning each night to one of 18 high-altitude huts. The visitors provide an additional challenge for the mountain rescue teams. Kelman Hut is about 2,500 metres up the Tasman Glacier. Because it's a national park, all wastes have to be removed. And that includes toilet waste. For Scotty and rescue teammate Darcy Ducha, it's an unsavoury use of their evacuation skills.
Up to Plateau Hut, Gardner Hut and Barron Saddle. They're all corrugated iron. Peel back the corrugated iron, get in there with a shovel, fill 44-gallon drums, and Try not to bring up your breakfast.
Fortunately, this is one of the easier ones, and provides an opportunity to practice helicopter rescues. The tedium of routines and rehearsals fills the time as the mountain rescuers wait for the call they know must come. Day's end is the worrying time, as park authorities learn who has made it back to the huts and who hasn't.
Good evening, this is the Mount Cook National Park radio schedule for Wednesday the 21st of November. Calling Kelman Hut from Mount Cook Base, do you copy? Can I have the names of the parties in the hut tonight, please?
There's the Upton party of 2 in the hut tonight.
Mount Cook Base clear with Mueller and calling Sefton Biv. Sefton Biv from Mount Cook Base, do you copy?
Just wondering what was the wind on Friday? What direction?
Wind at 1,000 metres, light southeast. Great, thanks for that, Erica. Have a good night. Mount Cook Base clear and listening.
Tonight, all is well on the mountain. And tonight, the search and rescue team in the valley can stand down. They gather at the local watering hole. This team building is as vital as the field training.
Sorry, Peter. When it comes right down to it, you're in the mountains, and stuff can happen where you can die. Basically, is that's how it goes down. So yeah, so you really have to learn how to trust people.
Can I have 3 bourbon and Coke,
Building
please?
a strong relationship with the mountain rescuer on the other end of the rope is vital. He or she is holding your lifeline. And there are some good reasons to stay alive in this part of the world.
I'm just going to tell you, let your friends over there think you're really good looking.
Oh wow, thanks.
But the frivolity will be short-lived. The brooding mountain above the village is preparing a challenge unlike anything the rescue teams have faced in 5 years.
Gardner Hut from Mount Cook Base, do you copy?
Newcomer Pim Demonchi is facing his first test. He's duty officer, and 2 climbers have failed to report in.
Gardner Hut from Mount Cook Base, do you copy?
No response. What's happened to the 2 climbers? Are they lost? Are they injured?
It could be that we're playing too much of the worried mother role, getting interventionist when we don't need to be. But it could also be, they could have been bivvying up there for 2 nights in real trouble.
Checking car parks is the first step.
Here's a Ford Laser here. And yeah, that's their car just there. They're obviously still in the hills.
Still in the hills, but where? Happily, by the time Pim travels back to base, the missing climbers have made contact.
Great to hear. Yeah, we'll see you when you sign out. Mount Cook Base clear and listening.
It was a close call. The wind is blowing hard. It's not a good day for a rescue. But then comes the call they've all dreaded. 2 Australians have climbed the south peak of Aoraki. But while abseiling down, a securing nut has pulled out and one of them has tumbled 250 meters down the icy slope. The climber now lies unconscious at the bottom of a crevasse, more than 20 meters below the surface. The Aoraki Mount Cook Search and Rescue Team is facing its worst-case scenario.
Just make sure there's 3 static ropes.
A climber is injured high on the mountain and rescue conditions are marginal. The rescue team gears up for the worst. The next few hours will test them and their training to the limit.
We've got someone that's fallen down a crevasse up on the western side of Mount Cook, just below Porter's Cove, and the person's unresponsive and they've taken a big fall into a crevasse, and it's going to be quite windy up there.
The alarm was raised by the man's partner, Andrew Peacock, an emergency room doctor. He's now at Empress Hut.
And then we'll be starting to send some teams. Do you copy that, over?
This will be the team's most demanding rescue in 5 years.
I enjoy it on a fine day when everything's going well. When you get up there in a situation where the wind's howling and the visibility's down and there's flat light, it becomes a real challenge to do things accurately and safely.
Tell me whether there's anything on the surface that indicates where the crevasses are.
And sometimes you think to yourself, what am I doing here? Because it's not actually that much fun.
It is a rounded hole rather than a full crevasse. There is a flood stain and a snow bridge that has broken through.
As the picture becomes clearer, everything seems to be against the rescuers.
I don't think there's anywhere really you could put a skid down, and I think it's too windy for the strop. I think we're in trouble.
It's now clear that literally every minute counts.
When you've fallen that distance and there's blood stains and he's wedged, just from my experience, I'd say it doesn't look all that hopeful.
15 minutes after the first call, Andy lands the helicopter at the base. Veterans Rob and Athol are first up. Only 2 rescuers can go up at a time. It's too high and too windy to risk taking more weight. Even in the valley, the wind is too strong to fly directly into. The helicopter will have to circle in search of an alternative route to the accident site. The trapped climber and partner Andrew Peacock were returning from Porter's Col when tragedy struck.
I abseiled first. Usually it's a good idea for the heaviest person to test the anchor, so I abseiled off of that, full 60 metres, got to the snow slope, took myself off the rope. He abseiled down and he was about 55 metres down the rope, only 5 metres above me and 5 metres from standing on the snow slope, and the nut pulled. And he tumbled past me. The ropes were still connected to him on his harness and his abseil device. He hit the snow slope quite hard and slid really very quickly, probably 250 metres down the slope with no chance of self-arresting at all.
The accident zone is riddled with crevasses and overshadowed by unstable ice faces that could collapse onto the rescuers.
You see accidents, and it does, in some ways, it does put you off. It puts you off to go into certain areas, that's for sure. Porter's Col is one area I wouldn't go and climb in because it's just not a nice place to be in.
There appear to be no safe landing zones in the immediate area. Anywhere that looks solid has other problems.
There's actually quite a big knob just to the left here. It's quite high above it.
The area is so steep that Andrew Peacock could only watch as his partner plummeted down the mountain.
Then I started down climbing. It was quite a steep snow slope. I couldn't just face down the hill and walk. I had to face into the hill using both ice tools and crampons to stick into the quite hard snow. And it took me 30 minutes until I could see a couple of ropes sticking up out of a crevasse, and then I realised that he'd slid into a crevasse. When I got there, obviously I yelled his name a number of times. I got no response. I crawled to the edge. I fell through the snow bridge initially, which worried me a lot that, you know, there could be 2 of us down there quite quickly. I gave the rope 3 tugs and I got 3 tugs back, so I knew he was alive. And I yelled, no response. I yelled again and he lifted his head and he said, you know, come down and help me. So I started shoveling out some snow just with my hands on my ice axe, and all that was happening was more snow was going down on top of him.
That was over 4 hours ago. And although the rescue team think they've spotted the right crevasse, they still can't make a safe landing. Andy wants to drop the 2 men some distance away.
There's an option, but that's quite a climb for you guys. Okay, yeah, I got blood, I got ropes. Cool. Don't worry, there's one swirling around that Sarek there. Okay, you choose the spot. I'll be happy anywhere left to where you are now. Like, probably up on that Sarek might be the best place actually, because I can probably get the nose just about round into one. Yeah, how do you feel about walking down from up there? We can do it, we can certainly do that. Okay, that's probably as comfortable as we're going to get, so you guys are free to come in the door.
Having seen the appalling conditions up here, The rescue team knows there was only one decision Andrew Peacock could make.
And so I left. I did, you know, I had no response from him. I didn't even tell him. I just left. I needed to get out of there and get back to Empress Hut. And for the next 2.5 hours, I think I just concentrated on getting back to the hut. I couldn't think about what he was going through because it was too awful for me to really think about.
The helicopter returns for the other team members, but strong winds at the drop-off point are worrying pilot Andy Shearer.
Wasn't that nice that hover unload? I think just assess what the situation's like up there. Certainly bringing him off in a stretcher may have to be a strop. Yeah, copy that.
While the helicopter is away, Athol and Rob are on their own in the frozen disaster zone. The snow is extremely soft. They have no idea what's underneath it. The situation is as dangerous as it can get.
Let's go. Go. I've got pretty soft snow here, Rob.
Solid there, mate. So good. You're going to walk sideways.
Yeah, which way do you want me to go, Rob?
Straight across.
You want me to follow you up or go straight across?
Straight across, please.
Can we just go a wee bit higher?
I've got a hole here.
Whereabouts?
The pair seem to be in danger from an avalanche by the time the chopper returns.
Rob from Andrew, going. Yeah, just a message from Grant. You happy to be in there with all that collapse going on? You're not unsafe at all? Yeah, nothing's come down around us. It's all out far left as we look up for. Okay, understood.
Having raised the alarm, radio updates are the only link Andrew Peacock now has to his stricken
They've
partner.
identified the crevasse and they've landed just below it and they can get to it on foot.
By the time the helicopter drops Scotty and team leader Grant on the mountain, Athol and Rob have reached the gaping chasm. Now they must get down to the injured climber. He's been trapped in his T-shaped prison for 4.5 hours.
Justin! You happy with the anchors? Okay, I'm away, mate. Oh, that's a tight hole, dude. The crevasse is too narrow.
The force of the climber's fall punched through the snow, but Athol is stuck.
Justin!
There's no way Athol can get down with all his equipment on.
Hey, Rob. I don't think I'm gonna get. I'm a bit. It's very tight. I just got doubts getting out. Hey? We're gonna need to take all the gear off. Harness, G-Mars. Hook them on, haul them out. It's tight at the bottom, mate. Justin!
As Athol struggles to force his way down to the trapped climber, the backup team's setting up a safe operations base. They now have to prepare a staging area for the evacuation of the climber, alive or dead. As the mountain rescuers battle to reach the climber in the crevasse, specialist paramedics arrive at the search and rescue base. But with weather and snow conditions getting worse, rescue leader Grant Prattley reports things are not looking good for the rescue bid.
Looking at a decision of leaving where they are and going out.
2 more rescuers at the crevasse, there's one last option: to send Scotty and Rob, the 2 smallest team members, down the hole.
Just be careful of the rope as you're going, dude.
Yeah, mate.
2 ropes to you, that's it.
Hey, Scotty, just coming really high here.
So you got 3 snow stakes?
We have 3 pigs in.
Yeah.
The news that there is no sign of life in the crevasse has come as a hammer blow for Andrew Peacock.
Yeah, Andrew, there's no problems there. We'll bring you out on one of the trips back out. Over.
The snow was just like you wouldn't believe. Imagine a beanbag with a piece of polystyrene on top, and that's basically the snowpack that we had. That's how difficult it was to get anchors in.
The hole was a T slot, so if you imagine looking down at the capital T, and the vertical part of the T at the bottom wasn't wide enough for me to put my foot across it.
Although the situation seems hopeless, Rob and Scotty make a last desperate bid to reach the patient, buried beneath 1.5 metres of snow.
He's alive!
Yep. Get some noise, Ethel. We're going to need a raise really quickly, mate.
Yeah, copy that, Rob. Can you give us a quick assessment of injuries? Because we'll need to get the chopper in.
Negative.
Robo! Is he talking to you? Over? He's talking to us. He's talking to them. Okay.
As I started to dig away the head, obviously I was yelling out that Scotty, you know, we're here, and he responded with a quite significant groan.
He spoke twice and lifted himself up by himself 3 times.
He was really going hard with the breaths, he was really sucking them in, and we were just telling him to relax, be calm, we're here, we're going to get him out. Talked about Melbourne, talked about whatever.
The stunning news that Justin is responding is immediately relayed to his partner, Andrew Peacock.
His foot is still alive, and they're talking to him. Over.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Deep in the crevasse, Scotty and Rob are now fighting to get their patient to the surface.
Raising on yellow.
Just hold that.
Stand by, Rob. We're just digging the bag in. Yeah. You're not happy burying the bag in there? It's only going to be backing up these other anchors. We've got... flip.
The snow is so soft and loose, it may not hold the bag anchoring the haulage lines.
Okay. Yeah, looks fine.
Miss John, no voice, but a lot of moaning, a lot of breathing, and response to voice slowly.
Yeah, will do, Rob. Later. He's alive, that's all that counts.
Across on the edge of the crevasse field, the rest of the team has the equipment ready for an evacuation.
Strop and nappy. Okay, nappy on its own, nobody hanging on the bottom of the strop.
Roger, no one on the strop.
The strengthening winds have forced a change of plans.
We thought we were going to fly Aaron in there on the strop, but apparently they just want the nappy, which is kind of like a rescue harness. So we're going to fly in the strop with the rescue nappy, and then they'll attach it to him with somebody else, and then they'll pull him out and get him back to base.
With unstable snow and strengthening winds, they need to get everybody off the mountain as quickly as possible. Justin has been in the crevasse with unknown injuries for 5 hours.
Respond. 2 voice. Looking really good down here.
You all set?
He's there, mate.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Yeah, stand by, Rob. We're just going to try and get some more mechanical advantage. Let's just make it a 9-to-1, lots of short pulls. We'll get him up, though. Lots of small resets. Rob underneath, trying to push him up. Us trying to haul him up. And brute strength and ignorance. Got him up to a point where Rob could support him.
Finally, the end of the desperate drama on the mountain seems in sight.
Great, I'll tell the paramedics that, over. 10 to 15 minutes, guys.
On reaching about 2 metres below the surface, and the person went off to somewhere else and really didn't do much else for us for quite a while. Didn't respond to pain, didn't respond to voice.
We're all fighters here, Justin. We're fighting hard with you, bro. Suck in the O's, Justin. Suck in the O's.
7 hours after the accident, and after 3 hours' work in the crevasse, the team has finally hauled the patient to the surface. Now they have to get him off the mountain.
Andy to Methil. I'm catching, you'll see me standing up with my arms up in the air.
Battling ever-strengthening winds, Andy needs to manoeuvre the harness close enough to be caught by Athol at the crevasse. Against the odds, the patient is out of the crevasse. The challenge now is to lift him to where the chopper can land safely in the surging winds, without dashing the precious cargo against the mountain. By the time the chopper lands, Pym and Darcy have the climber out of the harness and ready for the dash back to base and the waiting paramedics. Justin is showing no sign of life, but there is a faint hope he can still be resuscitated. His job done, Rob is emotionally and physically exhausted. During the 10-minute flight back, Grant and Pym work to help their patient cling to life. It's been almost 8 hours since the accident, but at last specialist medical care is just minutes away. With the helicopter down, the paramedics take over the fight for life. The man's system has shut down. His temperature is only 23 degrees Celsius. His survival depends on the medical team being able to restart his heart and get his vital functions restored. His other injuries appear to be limited to 2 broken legs.
I thought I heard a groan, and then all of a sudden scooped a bit more away from his face, told Rob to be quiet, and then, yeah, sure enough, and I couldn't believe it. It's just amazing, because we thought we'd given him up for dead almost, you know, and it's pretty rewarding.
If Justin's heartbeat can be restored, he may pull through. People have been revived after sinking to as low as 15 degrees Celsius. The signs are hopeful enough to move the unconscious climber into the waiting helicopter for another desperate flight, this time to hospital. There he will undergo heart bypass surgery to artificially re-warm his blood and slowly thaw his body back to a normal temperature. Exhausted but relieved, the team can finally stand down. They've given everything they have with no regrets.
As a climber first and a rescuer second, I hope to think that if something happens to me up there, you know, they'd do everything they can to get me out alive. So that's kind of, yeah, you just go for it. Yeah, I'm a bit pumped still. I just hope he makes it.
Returning with the last of the team, Andy Shearer has had a punishing day in the extreme flying conditions.
Dropping them out afterwards was quite difficult because the wind, even though it was calm where they were and they were calling it as calm, 80 feet up on the top of the strop, the wind was swirling around, which made controllability quite difficult, but it wasn't dangerous. It was just a hard work, which you know, had to sweat a little bit more than normal.
It'll be another hour before Justin gets to Christchurch Hospital. and several more before anyone knows whether the rescue has been a complete success. With the new day, the mountain rescuers slip back into their mundane routines. But the experience of the previous day remains with them. Pim's first real rescue has broken some of the most basic rules he was taught.
We were given the impression during the search and rescue training that we either got bodies or we got healthy people coming down out of the hills, and not to expect any sort of status 1 patients or people who were critically ill. But Friday's case was just that. I was surprisingly not emotionally wound up or affected by it, though. I thought, wow, I haven't been exposed to severely injured people or dead people before. But it felt just like the dummy that you work on in first aid practice, because there was absolutely no response from Justin. I kept talking to him anyway. It's a bit like leaving a message on someone's answering machine, You're hoping that it's going to get through. And just saying, hang in there, Justin, we'll get you to hospital really soon. If he was hearing it, maybe it made a difference. If he wasn't hearing it, maybe it was making me feel better. I don't know.
Back at base, Grant receives word from the hospital.
Okay. Cheers. Bye. They managed to get him rewarmed right through to 37 degrees, which is your normal body temperature. At 3 a.m, they had him totally stabilised. They were happy, and they put him into intensive care at that time. Then there was a dramatic rise in potassium, potentially due to other injuries, and at 3:15 he died. So it's a pretty shattering experience to go from pulling this person out of a crevasse on the hill, sending them to some of the best doctors in the country, and then dying within 15 minutes basically of what everyone thought was a miraculous recovery.
Aoraki Mount Cook has claimed its 138th victim and left many others with lingering scars.
When I was down climbing and trying to get back to the hut, I must admit though I did allow some sort of self-introspection about how this was going to affect me. I mean, I didn't know what the end result was going to be, but already I knew that this was just being on the edge of the crevasse and not being able to help him like that. It just didn't. It's something I would never want anyone to go through.
Yeah, it just rips you up. You put so much effort into this person, but we gave him the best shot. We gave him every possible chance of living, so that's all we can do. Yeah.
As standard procedure, after the rescue, the team gathers for a debrief. It reveals in the volunteers a depth of commitment that goes far beyond the demands of most jobs.
We got the very initial details that a climber had fallen.
Took the details of the call from Empress Hut, recognised the party because I'd heard them on the sked.
Shirley and I decided this was a nasty piece of work.
Familiar with the area from a sail last year, so we then took off with you guys.
It was a interesting area with some very large crevasses and bits and pieces all around us.
As far as Andrew, Justin's partner, being able to get down there, it would have been zero chance, absolutely zero chance. We were in the hole for about 3 hours, Rob and I, but that whole time I never once doubted the fighting that was going on, and Rob and I put so much energy into just talking and trying to give him a bit of compassion and know that we cared.
For all the pain and anguish, this will not be the last climber the SAR teams will go to rescue, although the members of the team will change.
I love the job. It's just how long you can hang in there doing it for. Maybe you're playing a game in some ways in which you're pushing risks, and I guess sooner or later you'll get to the stage where you decide you've pushed it far enough and you want to get out. You tell Dad what it's like. How is it? That's it.
But as one member steps down, someone else will step up. As long as people are drawn to pit their skills against these majestic but deadly mountains, there will be those drawn to take on the dangerous job of mountain rescuer.
Good evening, this is the Mount Cook National Park radio schedule for Wednesday the 21st of November. Calling Kelman Hutt from Mount Cook Base. Do you copy?